growing up in a Caribbean household, my dad's Jamaican, my mom's Guyanese. Growing up and watching them.
You work really hard, don't you?
Too damn hard.
How many jobs you got? 7, 8? Are you on break right now?
Right.
Welcome to the Going Mach 5 podcast. I'm your host, Rashad Kenneth Thompson. Thank you so much for joining me today. We are in the $10 million studio, and sitting across from me is a law school dropout, a Spelmanite, a social media marketer, and a person who believes that Batman is a terrible human being, and that Spider-Man is a perpetual victim. And subsequently, she is the second most beautiful person that I know. Shana. Shana Pinnock, how are you?
I am well, sir. How are you?
I'm great. What is your deal with Batman?
Batman is a person who likes to beat up on the mentally ill.
Okay.
And that's a problem.
If I'm going to tell you, the energy between Shana and I might be a little different because this is our second time doing this.
Yeah. Technical difficulties.
Yeah. I'm going to have a conversation with Samsung. But okay. Now, we spoke on this before, but I guess we'll run it down again because I don't have to peel back the onion. You have not seen Saw X yet.
Nope.
And why not?
Let me
rephrase. The fuck is your problem?
Well, I kind of just haven't. But also Spiral, it made me go, I don't know if I like the direction of where
no
Saw's
Spiral
going.
slander here.
Okay.
I want you to know that.
I know it's your thing.
I love. Yeah.
And I'll repeat it again since, our previous conversation.
Here we're going.
Yes. So Shad and I used to, when there was a new Saw movie coming out, and we would be like, all right, look, we're going to go see it on this date.
Shauna is the Amanda to my Jigsaw.
Literally.
That's how serious it was. Oh, don't say literally.
Well, not literally, but yeah.
Jesus. No, not literally.
And so, not literally. No. And so we would binge watch all of the movies prior to whatever's that new release was. I would take notes in a composition notebook trying to piece together how was this? Now, where did Amanda's ass come?
Sure. We're trying to figure it out together.
And we were trying to figure that shit out. And man, that was a great run because I saw there are only a few movie franchises that I'm deeply tied to. Yeah, they're like, oh well, now I'm here.
I will say I saw Saw 10, or as they called it, Saw X. I loved it. I have very low expectations for movies in general because when you're talking about, for me, I'm just speaking for myself, as I guess you could say, still a creator, I try really hard not to be critical of other people's
work.
I really try hard not to, because I understand, especially with a movie, it's a lot of people working together trying to make something happen, and I don't know what notes came from the studio, and I don't know. Madam Web is a great example of that. I don't know, and I love, what's her name, Dakota Johnson. I loved her just kind of being on some.
She was like, "Fuck it."
Hey, I thought this was an MCU movie. It wasn't, and I'm doing this press tour because I gotta.
Yeah, they're forcing me to.
I love that.
But they also did that with God, what is the name of that movie? The Marvels.
Did they?
Well, no. Racist and misogynist downplayed the Marvels. I watched that movie and freaking loved it.
It was fun.
I loved it. It was a fun ass movie, and it gave me other things to look forward to.
I'll tell you, it was fun being completely objective about the movie. Captain Marvel, to me, is only good. She's only written well in movies that are not hers. So which is the weirdest thing to me. But I enjoyed the movie. Kamala Khan was the highlight of the movie for me.
She's great.
I did think, because I'm not gonna put any spoilers here, but I did think that the post-credit scene was tacked on and I feel like it was very forced.
I don't think so.
Oh, I think it was very tacked on.
I do not
because there's
think
no
so.
lead up to that. There was absolutely no lead up to that.
I mean,
so like when I say tacked on, the movie would have been exactly the same without that post credits. It's not like anything was alluded to, unless you want to talk about the last episode of Miss Marvel. But that's a whole different universe now.
But so then, I mean, when we're talking about different universes,
they wouldn't have made such a big deal about Monica going to a different universe if they're just going to merge them again.
I don't know if they'd be merged in the way that we think.
So what you're saying is I'm trying to talk around this
without ruining it for people.
Yeah, they're going to be two different. You can't allude to one character. I'm not saying you can't. It's Marvel. I'll tell you this. Marvel has earned grace from me because they're so good at what they do.
Yes.
But they have started to lose that grace.
That bullshit with Blade, yes, it's pissing me off.
I don't know what's going on with Blade, so I can't speak on that. All I hear are reports.
Delroy Lindo is no longer in the movie.
I'm not there. What I will say is that it's the Marvels as a movie, I enjoyed it.
Yes. I'm
not sure how much it did for any of those characters. Like, as far as propelling them to make me say, I don't look at Photon as any more powerful or any less powerful. I don't look at Carol Danvers as any more powerful or less powerful. I like Kamala Khan, like, she was the best.
Kamala Khan is great.
She was the star.
And if you played the video games, then you're like, I was so happy for her.
I played the games, and let me tell you, if you know, you know. If you played one level of that game, you've played all of them because it's a very repetitive game. It's the same thing over and over again.
Exact thing.
And to the point where I was like, okay, so this is nothing new. Yeah. I might re-download it because I haven't played it in forever.
And so you need something new.
Yeah, I think it was done very well. Excuse me, her. She was done very well.
Yes.
And like I said, she was a star. I don't think the writing was as bad as everyone said it was.
That singing scene, where the singing happens, loved it. Loved every part of it.
I enjoyed it. That was cute.
It was so cute. It was cute. So well done.
It was meant to be. Like, when people talked about Miss Marvel, the show, there was a lot of disconnect, I think, from people who are my age or our age and maybe a little older. And I'm like, well, it's not meant for us.
For us, yeah.
It was meant for high schoolers.
Yeah.
And also from a familial standpoint, there are reaction channels that I love, whether it be, Previewed or, what else? I would say Jabby Koué, but he's changed it to, I think, Cinepals. Or, what would I say? Previewed or Cinepals, or who's the other reaction channel that I love? God, it's so many of them. There's one that I'm forgetting right now that I'm going to be so mad that I didn't mention. Heroes Reforged, or Crew of Blind Wave, or whoever. There is a Nikki and Steven, I love them too. There is a consensus when you talk about the family in the Marvels.
Yes.
And how West Indian parents are just like them. Like, a lot of parents are very, like, by and large, as a world, we're a lot more similar than we like to think.
Yes.
So I did like their portrayal of that. But we'll see where they go. I'm excited for Deadpool and Wolverine. I can't wait. I have 22. Oh, ain't no ish from me.
Yeah, ish.
Because I love Deadpool movies. I love the idea that Wolverine has come back when I thought he was done for.
Dead and gone. Yes.
And now you introduce the TVA, and now you have a chance to do a combination
just fun stuff
of, like, a lot of fun things. A lot of cameos.
You know what I'm actually like? There's this whole thing of, like, I deeply love, like, film and television, like, deeply. I'm also a video gamer, so I like.
Are you Xbox or PlayStation?
PlayStation.
Cool. Go ahead.
I had an Xbox and I sold my Xbox for a PlayStation, and then I got my PlayStation 5.
Well, you've got no taste. Okay. That's fine.
And so, like, right now, what I'm really looking forward to is The Last of Us season 2, the show.
Of course. course.
Oh my God.
Of course.
And if you played the game, I'm pretty sure
I'm gonna stop you. I'm
know.
gonna stop you right now. That I know that what you are getting ready to talk about does not happen in the second season of the show. They are spacing that whole thing out.
They have to.
For 4 seasons. There's so much happen. Okay.
Because there's a lot that happens in part 2.
Well, okay.
And you can't age her up.
I would
that swiftly.
No, you can't. And I would have said what you just said before I watched the first season. But I won't say that now because after watching the first season, they put a lot into the first season. And there were a lot of
that Sam scene. I was like, damn, we got here.
Well, they got there, and they also got.
They got a new baddie. I was like, what is this?
I wanna. Can I don't know if this is a spoiler. A love interest for the second game is in the first season of the show for a split second.
Yes.
And if you know.
Yes.
So when I saw that, I said, oh, they're doing that, or they're alluding to that. And there's also, depending on how you look at it, a protagonist / antagonist that's going to be in the second game that is in the first season of the show. And I saw this person, and I don't know if you saw this person, but in the final scene where Joel goes all Terminator, on the Fireflies, you can see a person running away.
Yes.
And when I saw that, I said, oh. They're going to use this actual footage in the second season
to go ahead and give more fodder to it. Yep.
I was here when you did X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
And I think, and the funny thing is, they alluded to that scenario twice in that season. One with David, when the girl was like, I don't know if I should say that because that might end up being a spoiler.
I think season 2 of the show ends at the very pivotal moment where shit changes in the game. I think because if you do it right, where you're having there's a buildup with a certain group, right? That leads up to that pivotal moment.
Sure.
And I think you can do an episode or 2 that even like shows their progression.
You can do some bottle episodes.
Right? You can do that.
Bottle episodes.
Like case in point, in season 1, and if you haven't watched season 1, I'm sorry, but in season 1,
I'll edit whatever I need to edit.
In season 1, the gay couple in season 1, which was
Bill and Frank,
which differed from how the game had their situation.
They were alluded to being gay in the game.
Yes.
But it wasn't overt.
But even with that,
when you meet them in the game, Frank is already dead.
Yes.
And Bill
with that damn Hawaiian shirt.
Bill just finds him. Yes. They all just find him.
And then you got to find the letter.
Right.
Right? But that's not what happens in the show.
Right.
And to me, like what I loved about it, and I was like, this is one of the most beautiful fucking episodes I have ever witnessed in terms of telling this kind of story on television. Like this is beautiful. I love this. Give me more. And so like just seeing that, I love fella who plays Joel.
Of course, who don't love with Daddy Pedro?
I love him.
I am curious about one, how they're gonna tackle the bottle episodes for the second season if they decide to.
Yes.
And 2, I will say the Bill and Frank episode I watched plenty of times. I think I've watched The Last of Us several times.
Yep.
Because that's one of those ones that I will.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Bill and Frank episode for me was, I can't remember if it was Craig Mazin or if it was Neil Druckmann. I think it was Neil Druckmann. Man, that's probably not it. It probably was Craig Mazin. But he talked about the portrayal of 2 gay characters on screen, and
in the middle of an apocalypse.
And I've done this before where I wrote a sketch. I was working with somebody creatively, and we were writing a sketch where It was a man and a woman, and it was like a romantic thing, but that wasn't the focus of the story. And later on, we get notes, and someone said, "Okay, we need to make them a gay couple." And both of us in that moment thought, oh, as well-meaning allies, we thought, oh, we'll just be responsible and treat it the same because we just make it a man and a man. And there are people who will hear me say that and be like, well, yeah, just treat it like it's a man and like it's a man and a woman. Like, just swap them. It's the same thing. If you want to make it equal, just treat it like it's the same. And the thing is, on the surface, it's the same. But creatively, depending on how deep you want to get into it, I'll give you an example. A man and a woman falling in love in the apocalypse, like in The Last of Us, could be written the same way.
Yes.
The acting will have to be different.
Yes.
Because the insecurity from characters is going to have to be different.
Yep.
And like I said, I can't remember if it was Neil Druckmann or Craig Mazin, but they openly talked about how they are not men of that community. So they had to ask men of that community, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? Like, how would this approach be? Because if you're looking at two men like that, one, are they both out? Were they out before the apocalypse? Is one of them more experienced than the other? Is one of them totally comfortable with his feelings towards another man? Is the other one not? Maybe he's not
doesn't understand it.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not necessarily gay, but he wants companionship and you know, and he's not necessarily, he's kind of just open to whatever. There are a lot of subtleties there.
Yeah.
And when you're writing that creatively, you have to be responsible. I loved their approach to it. It's very similar. There's a Real Rejects is another reaction channel that I love. And I'm actually trying to off camera, I told you about the company I reached out to for editing.
Yep.
They're the company that edits their stuff. But there's a guy who's on Real Rejects, who's on that channel. His name is Coy Jandreau. And he is like comic book aficionado. When you talk about source material, he knows it.
Yeah.
And he was interviewing a woman who wrote on the first season of X-Men, 97.
Oh, okay.
And she you know, our age, maybe a little bit younger, and she was openly talking about writing for the character of Storm. And she said, you know, and she's a white woman, but she openly said, like, you know, around the time that we were writing it, we were talking about, you know, Black excellence. And what does that look like? And what does that mean? And she said, and you can have the conversation of whether or not I should have been put in charge of that. She said, but since I had to make sure to research and ask people, and because the idea is you can easily say, I'll just build a powerful character. It's the same. No, it's building
not.
a powerful Black character. There is an intrinsic difference.
Yep.
The way that Storm has to command, there's an interaction she has, I think in the second episode, where it's, could you put another character in that place? Yes. But you don't want to lose the essence of who you are. That's honestly the issue I have with people who bring up race and they talk about using race. X-Men 97 had a lot of subtext, and one of them was talking about, did you watch X-Men 97?
Nope.
Okay. There's a character who says something in X-Men 97 where he's talking about his plan to take down the X-Men. And he talks about the idea of...
So you talking about Magneto?
No, I'm not. He openly talks about the idea of if your skin is not in the game, and he's being literal and figurative, if your skin is not in the game, well, he's being figurative on two different levels. But he said, if your skin is not in the game, apathy is the natural way to go. If you, and it's there's a lot of subtext in X-Men 97, it was so good.
That's real.
And he openly said, you know, if it's not something that will affect you, you'll just get tired of hearing about it. That's the extent to where you are involved. So what was interesting is when I heard that, there's one thing I love to say is there are people who will take my race and say, oh, people want to engage in identity politics. And it's not identity politics,
Mhm.
politics when it's who I am.
Exactly.
If I am Black, that is just who I am. The problem is, it's not identity politics.
Mhm.
You call it that because you don't want me to accentuate and
It's
acknowledge.
very real part of me.
Well, you don't want me to acknowledge parts of me that you can't relate to.
Yep.
So when I say I'm a proud Black man,
Mhm.
there are people who will say, "Why can't you just be a proud man? Why does it have to be Blackness?"
Because
But-
it has to.
But if I say I'm a proud Christian,
hmm
I love that he leads with his faith.
Oh,
Those
I
same
understand. I
people,
understand
those
it.
same people will say
Yes.
that. If I say I'm not, but if I were to say I'm an open gay man.
hmm
Well, I mean, if he's gay, that's fine. But
Why
he doesn't have
do
to.
we have to
We
tell
don't.
about
He
what's
doesn't
going
have
on
to
in your
tell people that.
bedroom?
Like we
Yeah.
don't. But if I say I'm a proud American, oh, I love the fact that he's a patriot.
Have you been watching the season of The Boys?
No, I'm not even caught up on The Boys.
What?
When I say I haven't been caught up, I've only watched maybe 5 minutes of The Boys. That's it.
I implore you.
It's on my list. The way that you
got
said
Cody Rhodes in this goddamn
the way you
ad this
said
week.
Saw, the way you said Saw is on your list.
Yes.
That's on my list.
Saw X is on my list. X-Men 97 is on my list. There's a new show on Netflix called Supercell. Some Black superheroes.
Okay.
That's on my list. I was like, I legitimately look. I got a fiance and a kid at the house. I do not have time to binge watch nothing but wrestling.
All I'm saying is, when you're talking about identity politics, I think people pick and choose what's an identity politic, and it's just rooted in what you can't relate to.
Yes.
When it's things that you can relate to, you love the fact that I lead with them and I'm open about them. But when it's things that you can't relate to, then it's, oh, why do you have to bring
Why do we
that
have to
up?
talk about it?
And that's, to me, that's fascinating.
Mhm.
But anyway, yeah, as far as the idea of Christian, now you said that you consider yourself a Christian.
Mhm.
Okay. But super Christians, the ones that walk around with capes,
Frighten the fuck out of me.
why?
Here's the thing.
What's a super Christian? Define it for me first.
Okay, so a super Christian to me is, first off, anybody who can sit here and spit Bible verses at me, and you know the chapters and all that, it feels off.
Really?
It feels off. Because then
what if they're just knowledgeable?
No, unless you have something like a eidetic memory or something like that. Like,
some people do.
No.
Some people read it enough where they do.
Because to me, I care less about the text.
Sure.
The text is supposed to be there as like a guide, right?
Okay.
But I care less about the text and more about like, how are you embodying the essence and the spirit of Christianity?
Okay.
And there are a lot of people who, I mean, not to get political, but like, look at the current political and cultural climate that we are in the United States right now.
Sure.
And to me, you can't sit up here and claim that you are, oh, I'm such a Christian, and yet you're watching a genocide happen and you're condoning it.
Sure.
You can't claim that, oh, I'm a super Christian, and yet when Black folks are telling you about their lived experiences and you try and chalk it up to something else, you can't tell me that you're a super Christian and believe that a man who got found liable of rape, who tried to lead a coup, who was calling for the murder of protesters, who was screwing a whole porn star.
Who are you talking about specifically?
Like, seeing that, and then here's my other problem, and this is particularly for the Black community. I have seen how do I preface this? There are really good people who do terrible things, and then there are terrible people who do good things, right? Both can be true. However, the terrible things that you do, or being a terrible person, does not automatically get forgiven because you're out here spitting a Bible verse.
Sure.
And
absolutely.
Oh, I want to say something, but I can't.
Coward.
I can't. But what I will say is I have seen, especially Black Christians who have forgiven or let certain things slide in terms of our own church community. We've seen people who have outwardly harmed the community, who have outwardly harmed, whether that be other Black folks, whether that be women, whether that be children.
Mhm.
And then you'll have somebody super Christian who's like, yeah, well, you know, God forgives you and all you got to do is repent. Bump all that. His ass should be in jail. Her ass should be under the jail.
Sure.
Like, and I believe in spirituality. I choose to believe in God because I've seen God work in my own life.
But you believe Jesus is the Son of God. You just said you're a Christian.
Yes.
So you believe that then?
Yes.
Okay.
Now here's the other thing. Hey, do I know that to be true?
Well, it's religious belief. Sure.
Do I know that to be true? No.
I'm going to tell you, just being transparent with you.
Mm-hmm.
Am I a Christian? No, I'm not.
Oh, I know.
I think, no, it wasn't always, there was a long time where that's just how I felt because that was default.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got older and I stopped subscribing to that way of thinking. And then I opened myself up to it more because I started looking at historically, is this something that I believe in? And the fact is, this is a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus was a real person.
Yes.
That is a historical fact.
A factual thing.
We cannot deny that.
Yep. Now, Son of God?
Like, now, as far as God existing, I don't know. Yeah. I do believe in a higher power. I believe in forces that where we can't see. Mm-hmm. By and large, I think Christianity is just not the way that, as of this sentence, Christianity is not the way that, that's not the thinking, the method of thinking that I subscribe to. Mm-hmm. I think whatever someone needs to be good to their fellow man, like Mazel Tov, do what you got to do. I do believe that every person should have a place to worship, no matter what that is.
Yep.
And I will fight for people's right to have that. Mm-hmm. I think it's sounding like you have more of an issue with the hypocrisy than the idea. The worse, the more you say you're a Christian, i.e. super Christian, the worse the hypocrisy is. Would you agree with that? Okay.
Absolutely.
Now, what I have noticed for myself personally is, I will say this, most Christians that I have met, most white Christians, I'm talking about my experience, most white Christians that I have met have been objective, fair-minded people. Now, these are the ones that I have met.
Yeah, I was like, that's not my experience.
Right. These are the ones that I have met personally. I know that there are ones that are not like that exist. But most of them, I won't say all of them, most of them are like that. Yeah, I think there is a disconnect that I think is not even a black or a white thing. It is a Christian thing. And I think that there is a problem when you start to allow your religion to overwhelm your collective common sense. I'm glad that you're here and I can say this to you face to face. In the interest of transparency, when I do this podcast, I make an attempt to send people a PDF so that they can write out certain points. We want to have organic conversations, so it's wonderful and it's great. One thing that Shana told me that she wanted to highlight was men buying podcast mics. So now that she's here in front of me and we're on camera and there are 3 different cameras, they can record this smoke that you're about to get. Okay. What the fuck is your problem with me? And how long have you wanted to fight?
I said the majority of men.
You didn't use the word majority.
Well, fine. I meant to add the majority of men should not have podcast mics.
That's such a woman thing to do. I said the majority. No, you didn't.
Fine.
I have text that says you didn't say majority.
Then you're absolutely right. I meant to write the majority.
Say that first part of that sentence again. You're absolutely right.
Now, to me,
I'm a man. Of course, I'm absolutely right.
Now, first off, okay.
I was waiting. I was like,
oh, all right. I was like, oh, he's trying to guilt me. Yes. All right.
You almost took it. I wanted it so bad. I wanted to get you so bad.
No, I just find that, and honestly, how do I preface this? I have found that a large portion of the podcasters who I find to be insufferable, vast majority of them tend to be men.
Sure.
And it's now, you know, I'm a person who, you know, I've done a lot of growing.
What the hell does that mean?
I've done a lot of growing in the last 10 years. So it means that there are certain things that men with podcast mics, especially those who are, if they're talking about like relationships.
Sure.
Or the dynamics of men and women, or red pill podcasters who can go to hell.
Those are the best.
Those are terrible people.
Awesome. Love them all.
Like
my heroes.
Like if I was going to give, like, you know who can have a podcast mic? What's his name? Oh boys, Fahad and James on Shits and Gigs. They're hilarious and they're great and I love them.
Oh, I like them too.
They enjoy the podcast mic.
Okay, well, okay, and I know this is all subjective, it's all opinion anyway, but is it, okay, I'm going to do something that I don't like when people do to me.
Okay.
I don't like when people distill things down to, oh, you just don't like their opinions, so you shouldn't have that. Which, honestly, when you break it down, that's exactly what it is.
Okay.
So what is it about? Is it that you just don't like their opinions, or?
It's not just that.
Okay.
Because
I have an idea what it is, but I want you to explain.
Because some of their opinions are fucking terrible. But a lot of them.
Okay.
It's just fucking terrible.
Sure.
But it's also that, because podcasts are very much so like social media, and I understand that they use social media in order to like gain that visibility.
Of course.
The problem is that with your podcast, whether or not if you have 5 listeners or 5 million listeners.
Oh, I know what you're getting ready to say. And if you're gonna say what I think you're getting ready to say, I 1,000% agree with you.
You have a platform.
You do, sure do.
And so it is.
There's a level of responsibility.
There's a level of responsibility, and what are you doing to inform the masses?
Of course.
And my issue with like red pill podcasters in particular, a good portion of the listeners of those kinds of podcasts, outside of like just reg deg incel motherfuckers who can't get pussy, outside of them, it's
such an unfair thing to say.
It's youthful.
You don't know that.
It is young men and boys.
Sure.
And herein lies the problem, right? Now, me as a Black woman who when I get married next year, I will officially be a stepmom to a very, very adorable 8-year-old. Well, he'll be 9. And a very adorable 9-year-old, right? And hopefully one day I'm able to have children of my own, preferably a daughter first. I want my girl. And it's frightening to me to think that there are these irresponsible people with platforms, which is also why the fuck I hate YouTube for this kid. I want that shit banned. I saw your face. Like it frightens me to think that there are these folks especially young kids, who their brains are not fully formed. They do not have experience. They do not have the information. They do not have facts more times than not. And so they're just listening to these things and coming up with these ideologies. And then what does that turn into? That turns into little boys being like, oh yeah, well, girls can't do this. Shut the fuck up.
Shana, listen.
Hey.
Shana, look, I love your passion for this.
Yes.
Can I tell you where I think the disconnect is? And
Where's the disconnect?
This is me as a boy that has grown up, and my influence didn't come from, it wasn't as direct as red pill platforms, etc. But
you had your Uncle Luke's.
A lot of it, came from the music I was listening to.
Yes, absolutely.
If you don't have I'm not going to say it's Fresh and Fit's responsibility to raise me or my little brother. I don't have a little brother, but
absolutely not.
And by the way, you might not even want to even talk about them again.
I don't.
But I don't think they're wrong all the time. But what I will say is that I get what you're saying. There is, when you have a platform, there's a level of responsibility you have. And the kids that, there are going to be children that are going to be listening to what you do. I don't think that necessarily puts onus on them to be, we're assuming that they're grifters and not living in their truth. Because if you are living in your truth, I cannot be mad at you living in your truth and being open about it. Now.
Oh no, I can. If you're living in your truth and you're just a terrible person, I would still be like, you're a terrible person.
And that's fine. But if you are living in your truth and you are speaking your truth, and that is what your experiences have led you and shaped you to be the person you are, I cannot say, you can have the opinion that they're terrible people. But I can't be mad at someone authentically being or believing and being outright about what they believe. Now, if you're a grifter and you're doing it for money and you know that this is fake and you're not a real person, that's when I would have an issue with it.
Andrew Tate. So I'll give another example, right? Like, which, you know what, and fuck it, because I'm gonna say this because I know my nephew actually does watch a lot of YouTube and all this other stuff, and I've already told his stupid little ass, he's in his 20s, I've already told his stupid little ass, stop letting YouTube fucking raise you. Like case in point, right? Like case in point, Passport Bros. And if you've ever heard of, there are several Passport Bros who have podcasts, right? And their whole thing is, oh no, well, we have to leave the country. If you want to find a good woman, you got to leave the country because, okay, tell me why. Explain it to me like I'm 5. Why are you, this is your opinion, and you're also encouraging other men to go and find these women in these foreign countries. Why? Is it because you're easily able to manipulate them because of money, because of potential citizenship in the United States? Is it because of
you're gonna be so mad at me in a second.
That you can't get pussy here in the States? You're gonna be
so mad at me in a second.
And really,
I see it coming.
Like, what is it?
I am standing on the train tracks and I see it coming.
Oh, all right. He's about to piss me off, y'all.
Listen, I cannot necessarily partake in a behavior, but completely understand why somebody would. I also think that you just now in this moment, you did something that you didn't realize that you did it.
Okay.
You used a word that is used when a man typically gives his preference on the kind of woman he wants.
Okay.
And women who don't agree with it love to use this word. It's a buzzword. It's called manipulating.
Okay.
I have heard young women in their 20s say that they want a man who is older.
Okay.
And I almost never hear pushback about that. But if a man is older and says he wants a woman who's younger, oh, you just want a young girl so you can manipulate her. Manipulation, by dictionary definition, is not always a terrible thing.
Okay.
We often use it, just like we use the word grooming. We associate the word grooming with like
pedophiles.
Terrible, yeah. Yes. Terrible shit.
PDF files.
And normally, if you notice, you know, just now when you said PDF files, when I did the intro, when I was just doing the talking, I was talking straight to the camera and I said, in interest of transparency, PDF, I associate the format PDF with pedophiles now. So like I feel weird saying it because I'm actually talking about the actual extension PDF. It's just like if you have a quarterback in the NFL and we have the backup, we know the backup's going to be a starter. We're going to groom him to be the backup. If that's not bad.
That's not a bad. It's not a bad.
If you press a button, you're manipulating that button. You didn't do anything wrong. You just press the button. Some women want to be coached. some women will tell you that. There are women who are older who want to be coached.
Yes.
So it's not an age thing. This is what I'll say. This is why I say you're going to be mad at me. Mm-hmm. I completely understand the mentality of a man who says he needs to get away from Western society to find a woman.
Okay.
I completely get it. And it's not crazy. From a logical standpoint, it's not crazy. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you exactly why. I'm not saying I would necessarily do this because the kind of woman that I want isn't blindly submissive to me. Mm-hmm. But I completely understand. I don't like the branding of it, passport bros. That's lame to me, personally.
They call themselves that.
Yeah, that's lame to me. I don't like that. I wouldn't call myself that. If they want to, that's fine. Mm-hmm. I get the idea of going to another country and saying finding a woman, and it doesn't have to be anything sinister. It's not necessarily malevolent to say, I'm going to lord citizenship over your head. It doesn't have to be that. I'm sure in some cases it is that.
It is.
I'm
sometimes.
sure some cases,
yes.
I'm sure sometimes it is. But the idea of going over to a society that's not a Western society, where women are raised differently. Mm-hmm. And that's factual. They are raised differently.
Yep.
And not in a Western society. And there are women who are raised in a Western society who are just like, yeah, they're raised to be weak. No, a lot of them, from a familial standpoint, are raised. It's
completely different.
Right. So that's not crazy for me for a man to go over there. Now, to say to go find a good woman, I don't agree with that verbiage because just because she's a little more demure doesn't mean that she's a good woman. It just means she's demure.
Here's where it typically ends up biting them in the ass. Because you're going to go to this other nation, other country, whatever, to look for love or look for companionship in that way. Mm-hmm. More times than not, I've found, and you can see this on episodes of freaking 90 Day Fiancé if you need to, you will find that they have not done their own research on what is the cultural aspect over there.
Sure. Absolutely.
Right? So they're approaching it with I'm just trying to get away from this Western shit, right?
Right.
But I know nothing about this non-Western shit.
Right.
And then it's like
now one might consider maybe some of them know that, and that's how much they hate that Western shit. I'm willing to go into the abyss for the devil I don't know versus the devil I know.
And then you get what you get.
And sure, and here's the thing: getting what you get, maybe some of them are okay. I'll just take that.
Yeah.
I'll speak for myself personally. I get the spirit of what the allure is. Mm-hmm. I absolutely do, because I will say culturally, women that I have dated that were not in a Western society or not raised in a Western society, I'll say for myself personally, I don't find one more desirable than the other. Personally,
it's just different.
It's different in a way that I get why some men would like one over the other. And I'm not going to chastise them for liking one over the other. Mm-hmm. Some men like a woman who's more like, hey, what do you need? Oh, hey, I took care of this for you. Or, hey, I cooked this for you or whatever. There's a ism that I'm sure you've heard before, that I've heard, where a man will ask, can you cook? And the woman says, can you build a house? Women just cackle and laugh over how clever not that shit is. Mm-hmm. One, those are not functional equivalents, first of all.
Okay.
Second of all, the idea of can you cook, I'm asking you, do you have the ability to cook? Mm-hmm. The idea of can you build a house, those are not the same. Mm-hmm. A meal can take 10 minutes. This shit gonna take me months. What the fuck are we talking about? This is a whole different skill set. Uh-huh. But if we're talking about functional, the idea of asking you if you can cook should not offend you that quickly. Mm-hmm. And if it does, I think that's a place where you have to look inward. And why does this bother me? Now, I get the spirit of that. Uh-huh. You don't even have to put this. The second part, can you build a house, invalidates the whole thing. If a man is asking a woman, can you cook? And this man has done nothing for her. Mm-hmm. I get why she would be offended by that question.
That's one. And two, because she's likely not, it's probably not the first time she's been asked that question, and her experiences around that, because I've had men ask that question and I've been like, why? Why? Like, but why are you asking? No, and it's a genuine. Like, why are you asking? Like, yes,
Well,
and then I'll eventually get to the yes. I can cook my ass off.
The way you said, "Why are you asking?" the first time just then, and then
Why?
you say, "Well, no, it's genuine. Why are you asking?" Your tone was different.
It's just
The
like,
first
no.
time was not a genuine.
But why?
And I'll tell you this.
Because are you asking me to cook for you?
No, he didn't. He asked, "Can you cook?"
And I'm asking, why are you asking that?
The formula for a lot of those podcasts are men who are a little bit older, early 30s, sometimes mid 30s, and women who are in their early 20s and their frontal lobes are not fully developed.
Yes.
And what ends up happening is you get men who and you may disagree, but are in a more seasoned space in their life. They are older. They have seen more life. They understand things a little bit. I won't say more, but I'll say more, but it's from a different perspective. So I don't even know if it counts. And then you have women who are in their early 20s and are just regurgitating. These guys are regurgitating talking points from other Red Pill podcasts. Yes. And these women are regurgitating talking points from talking to other girls who are in their early 20s that don't know shit.
Yes.
So you get this whole dynamic of, and I'm going to tell you, what will always win is the experience. The experience will always trump the immaturity on no matter what side it's on, because you can't explain why you feel this way. Because it doesn't make sense, because you're just regurgitating a point. Case in point, the talking point of believing in feminism, but then wanting a person superior to you, or not understanding what the definition of feminism is. A lot of women say, "I'm a feminist."
What does that mean?
But they don't understand what it means. And that creates a lot of the gotcha moments that have the clips going viral and XYZ.
My fiance and I right now, so before we got engaged, we were doing couples counseling.
Good.
And now our couples counseling has transformed into premarital counseling.
Aw.
Yeah. And which is funny because we both have individual therapists. I have my girl. You need water?
I'm fine.
I have my girl. He has his guy, and his guy is our couples therapist. Which works out the way that it's supposed to.
Sure.
And one of the things, so we're reading a book right now, called Things I Wish I Knew Before I Got Married.
Okay.
And one of the chapters, essentially is talking about what are the fundamentals of how you see your household running? Because it's so interesting now, like growing up in a Caribbean household. My dad's Jamaican, my mom's Guyanese. Growing up and watching them.
You work really hard, don't you?
Too damn hard.
How many jobs you got? 7, 8? Are you on break right now?
Right. Low key. Growing up and watching them and their marriage dynamic, and him and his parents' marriage dynamic, like his mom and his stepdad. Like one of the examples is my mom. We just went. I just said yes to the dress top of last month, and my mom came down.
You're such a real adult.
And so my mom came down. His mom flew down, and my mother. I said to her, I was like, "Oh, like is Daddy all right?" She's like, "He's fine." She's like, "I'm gonna be gone for 4 days?" She's like, "I made 3 days worth of meals for him." You did what?
Respect.
Nigga. And then when I asked my fiance's mother, my soon-to-be mother-in-law, I was like, "Well, is he okay?"
Mother-in-law?
Mother-in-law.
God, this is a whole different world.
And I asked her, and I was like, "Oh, is because she heard my mother say it, and she's like, he got fingers, he can dial, he can go to a restaurant, he's fine." And I'm like, okay, right? So even just something as so simple as that, because I love to cook. I do.
It's an extension of yourself.
I really enjoy it. And now my big thing is I especially love cooking for him and his son. Let me tell you something. If I make something and that little baby,
how old is his son?
He's 8. And if that little baby has something, now his palate is shit now, but I'll be putting the little boy on.
Let me tell you, his palate is gonna be shit for a long time because I am I'm not going to say he's like me, but I am 37 years old at the time of this sentence. I will be 38 in 2 days. And one thing that I might not buy, depending on who I'm with, when I go to a restaurant, what do I get? Say it with me on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Chicken tenders. I'm like, chicken tenders.
Exactly. And one is because I have the palate of a poor person. I try to keep, this is true. I've worked very hard in my life.
Yes.
And I have ascended to a place that I'm very happy. I'm not content, but I'm very happy. And financially, I do pretty well.
Yes.
And I'm very thankful for that. It's a lot of luck, being in the right place, right time, right investment, making the right contacts, whatever. I still have the palate of a poor person. And my mentor, who is 10 times more wealthy than I am, he just laughs because he used to be poor too. So he just laughs. And whenever we go to a restaurant, he'll say, man, you looking for them chicken tenders? I'm like, yeah.
It's like,
what kind of sauce we looking at?
Listen, that little baby, first off, so I'll like.
Do you make him chicken tenders? Like, do you?
No.
What the hell's wrong with you? Why are you depriving this child?
He can get chicken tenders when he's with his mom.
Such a Western woman.
Like, no. Like, when he's with me, he's
Passport
eating.
bros, we up.
He's eating steak. He's eating lamb chops. His favorite thing that I make.
Hey, man. What the hell? He got a better palate than me.
His favorite thing that I make is either curry chicken.
I'm jealous of this kid now.
Or chicken curry or beef curry. Either one.
Which one of those has a bunch of bones in it?
Neither.
Really?
If you're making it right, neither.
Go on.
Neither. I was like, neither.
I've been led astray. I've been
It's like you've been led astray.
Bamboozled, yeah.
And it's so funny because I'm like, if I make something for that little boy and I'm like, how is it, baby? And he's like, oh, so good. I'm like, great. Because if it's bad, he will tell me. It's fine.
He's a child.
He will tell.
Children and drunks.
Unabashed truth.
Yeah.
All right. And
how does he do it? Does he like walk up to you with a plate and then throw it on the ground and say it tastes like shit?
No.
Clean it up.
He'll go, I feel like it's too salty. And I was like,
that's so sweet.
Is it
That
too
is
salty?
so sweet.
And he's like, I can, I make cornbread. He's like, I can take, it tastes corny. I said, you're tasting cornmeal. Like, what are you talking about?
I feel like it. I want that kid to develop a gene where, like, you think he's saying something really like nice, and then it just turns up. I gotta be honest. I'm jealous of this kid.
He's a smart ass.
I'm making jokes about chicken tenders. He eating better than me,
bro. And his real big thing is sushi.
Oh, fuck this kid.
Oh, and mind you, can't even pronounce it right. Calls it sushi. And he's like, I thought we were getting sushi. Like,
oh, I like this guy.
Whoa, bro.
You know what? Instead of being jealous, I could learn from him.
Like, honestly, that's my baby. But you know, like my fiance comes from a household where his mother, he's like, my mother has 5 moves of doom. Like, we were wrestling fans. He's like, my mother has 5 moves of doom. She can.
The trumpets played in my head as soon as you said that.
He's like, she can make 5 things, 5 of them. If you get her outside of that realm, we call in and we're making orders, right? Whereas me, I've watched my mother prepare whole meals my dad is retired. My mother goes to work every day because she says that she can't be. She's like, I love your father. He's my best friend in the world. I cannot be in the house with him all day. She's like, no. I need something to do. So she will make this man breakfast and lunch and then come home and still make fucking dinner. And I'm like, girl,
that's a good woman.
I'm like,
there you go.
On some Kanye West shit. That shit sound like slavery. What are we doing?
That's how you do it. Passport bros.
And it's so funny because I did not have and I remember being a kid and being a teenager and watching my mother do all these things and being like, look, she fucking wildin'. I ain't nigga, I've been working all day. You better bring your ass to come make some. And now I'm that person. And I'm like,
good, isn't
no,
it?
or if he's like, no, I'll do something cheap, I'll just grab some McDonald's. I was like, you ain't eating that fucking garbage.
Okay, now I'm gonna tell you, there's a problem there, first of all. But I get it. And you say your fiance's name is Michael,
Mhm.
and all kidding aside, the kid sounds like an absolute joy.
That's my baby.
I've been in that space before where innately I'm just like, no, I'll take care of it myself. Like, I'll just get something quick. You ain't gotta.
Like, no, you're not eating that garbage.
If you have a person who does love you, one, they don't want you to fill your body with that garbage. And there is another thing, just a quick aside for people who say, oh, well, we ate McDonald's when we were kids and we were fine. It's not made of the same stuff.
Shit is different.
It's very
it's
different.
Very different.
The chemical composition is different than it was back then.
Yeah. The food don't grow mold. There's a problem.
I do understand I understand his mentality, and I also love the fact that you eventually got to that point. But what did we say earlier? I can't even remember if this was the first take or the second take of the podcast, but talking about how I feel like opinion is the absolute lowest form of knowledge.
Yep.
Opinion is the lowest. Right above that is opinion with information. Right above that is information, and then right above that is information plus knowledge. Plus experience. So when you have information and experience, that's true knowledge to me. I'm pretty sure I didn't say that right, or maybe I did. I'll play it back. I end every episode with
5 questions.
5 questions, and I want you to answer them as concisely as you possibly can.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
Do you have any idea what I'm going to ask you?
Nope.
Yeah, you don't, because the other episode I did this on has not been posted yet. And of course you don't, because even if it has been posted, I have 2 viewers and one of them is dead. So, Dead Dad Club shirts are coming soon.
Oh God.
I'm not joking. All right. Who gave you the best advice that you've ever received?
It's a really good question.
I'm great at everything I do.
The best advice I've ever received.
Who gave you the best advice you've ever received? It's a great question, because you will say who, and then you will say what the advice is.
What was the advice? You know what? I got to give a shout out to my mama.
Okay.
My mom's biggest piece of advice for me, in terms of especially like my relationship, has been choose your battles. It works.
Okay. What do you know well enough that you can teach an advanced class on it?
Social media.
Speaking of which, you are trying to start a social media endeavor. Tell me about that.
Well, it's kind of like twofold. One is, I think because there are so many people who don't really get social media.
Sure.
And there's a lot of young kids who think that your key to social media is you have to be a creator. You don't have to be a creator. I make a good little chunk of 6 figures without being the person that's in front of the camera. So, teaching you about social media.
This is a business you're trying to start.
Yes.
Okay.
Social media strategy, social media, how to use data to inform and metrics to inform the next, decisions that you're making in terms of what kind of posts you're doing, understanding the different type of platforms that you are the best platforms for whatever's your medium that you're trying to, have out there. And I inevitably want to turn that almost into like a boot camp.
Okay.
But specifically targeting the youth, really middle school to about high school, early college. And I want states to pay me to do these. There's a lot of programs and a lot of grant programs that states like to give. They give free money all the time.
Sure.
So I'm like, I can go back and work this out and come up with an entire curriculum. Or are you going to pay me to do it? Are you going to pay me to travel?
What's your timeline on something like this? Like in terms of it being a real thing that people can enlist your services? I
honestly don't see it being, especially as lives. I honestly don't see it being a thing until at least 2026. Another year and a half. Yeah.
All right. Where do you feel the most confident?
Where?
In what arena? And you can't say social media. Where do you feel the most confident?
Where I feel the most confident. These are crazy good questions. Huh.
I told you I'm great at everything I do.
The most confident, funny enough, is probably in any kind of public speaking scenario.
I could see that.
I I don't get nervous easly. I don't get nervous at all, actually. It's never been a problem for me.
You have no shame.
I mean, there's that too.
Yeah. All right. When you die, what do you want to be remembered for the most?
Being a good person.
Okay.
For my family, for my friends, and for the masses. Like I've done.
You sound like such a cult leader.
Like good, being a good person who's put good into the world, who puts love out into the world. That includes like, you know, if you're trans, I love you. If you're gay, I love you. If you are, you know, just if you're different, outside of being like murderous.
I'm cool with the murderers too. Don't discriminate, Shana.
I love you, you know, and just really being, I want to be known as being a light to other people. Okay. And at the very least, being a light that, yes, while I shine, but I also help you shine too.
That's so,
that I lift as I climb.
That's so sweet. All right. Last thing. Why are you here?
Because I love you, Shad, and I want to see your show. First off, it's not the first episode I've been on, but I want to see.
You did numbers. You did a great job.
I want to see your show do well. I have watched you build and create this thing. I haven't seen you in quite some time.
It's been a minute.
I also needed to give you a hug since your dad passed.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that.
Yes, and you know, I just whatever I can do to help. I'm gonna do it.
Shana, thank you. I know we're filming this on Independence Day. It was, funny enough, one of the only few days I actually get off.
Yeah.
So I'm back at, you know, I'm back at work. I'll just say that. I'm back at work tomorrow. But I want to tell you thank you.
Of course.
I appreciate you. You give me a lot to work with. And thank you for sticking around for the second go of it, because the first go of it, whatever reason.
Technology be technology.
It does. It does. AI is the future. You need to get with it. And who gives a fuck about creators? Shana, thank you. I'm not even going to give you a chance to respond to that. Shana, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I love you. And keep going.